Hi. Welcome to Marxian Economics course, a lecture on the depression and crisis. This topic is the last topic where we will discuss the trends in Marxian economics, and this is one topic on which Marx did contribute least. He has described several elements, several factors that might cause crisis. However, he did not describe continuous or a concrete model or theory of crisis, which is done by later Marxists, and to some extent the crisis theories of Marxian economics are also challenged by each other. And in that sense, actually, I also today would like to talk on another school in economics which had a contribution to the crisis theories of economics. That's Keynesian school, especially the post-Keynesians were very active in that. And as an introduction, actually, I also would like to talk on the contributions of Marx and Keynes on basically to the later crisis theories. And then I will discuss actually three different layers of types of crisis theories in these schools. And each of these theories are actually considering different layers of economics. One is just the surface, but the other one is a relatively lower layer, and then you go to the lowest layer where there might be something else, a deeper dynamic going on. Anyway, let's talk on the crisis. First, what is an economic crisis? Typically, it is a process where the companies start finding customers. They won't be able to sell basically what they produce, or alternatively for other reasons, they won't be able to get sufficient amount of profit. So one way or the other, profit rates are in the end harmed, and as a result, companies stop investing. They might even be shrinking. They might even close their companies and stop producing. And as a result, the growth rate goes down. Actually, for stagnation, growth rate should be below a certain value for a certain term. So basically, growth rate is the main variable which is used to determine whether you have an economic crisis or not. Officially. So unemployment goes up, reserve army size goes up, of course. That's a side effect. Although in some cases you might have also jobless growth, which means you have growth, but basically the unemployed remains constant or even might be increasing. But typically, of course, when growth rate goes down, you might also expect the unemployment rate also goes up. And this is how the crisis actually spreads to everybody, basically. Even if initially demand was not down, as unemployment gets spread, you might expect the demand effect. As investments goes down, you also expect the demand effect, which means actually companies stop demand the goods, the commodities for investments, and unemployed people will stop demand buying consumption goods, commodities that are used for consumption. As a result, you expect demand goes down, which will of course have further effect on the growth rates and the profit rate, and as a result on the growth rate. Anyway, but as I said before, Marxian school pretty much views the crisis as necessary features of the economic system. And if you want to prevent them, well, you can postpone them, but they will come back usually stronger than the initial crisis, which will come if you did not have any intervention. And what are its benefits? It eliminates the inefficient companies. It eliminates some unexpected, let's say, aspects of capitalist system, which can only be eliminated in times of crisis. And immediately after crisis is done, it will again rise again, which might be maybe, well, decrease in size of the reserve army, or which might be falling profit base, as we have seen, or which might be a specific type of investment behavior done by the investors in financial markets, basically. There are different crisis theories even in Marxian economics which have different types of views on how crises start and which type of behavior it eliminates. But the main point is this undesirable behavior, or this behavior, this is actually moving the economy into a crisis, can only be eliminated when the crisis actually initiates in all of these models. It might actually increase reserve force, as I said, and it might also make countries to take structural radical structural reforms, which might be necessary to restart, actually increase the profit rate back up, basically. And in each of the crisis theories, actually, we will see all of these potential remedies crises are bringing in more detail. But to sum up, as I said, the crises are helping capitalist system to survive. Well, whether capitalist system has a crisis, has a problem beyond the regular crisis, which is bringing its end, is another big discussion in Marxian economics, and that discussion will be also part of today's lecture, actually. Anyway, let's move on to Marx and Keynes and see what they have done, how they have contributed to the crisis theories. Well, we should mention that both of the schools are very much intermingled, which means they are making use of each other's theories. And neoclassical school actually, which is in macroeconomics known as neoclassical school, they have also their own crisis theories, but mostly the problems are external problems. So economic system doesn't create those crises. So you might have regular crisis, but each time an external factor brings the crisis, and economic system immediately after crisis starts, economic system actually brings the cures the problems created by the crisis, which we have mentioned in the beginning parts, like basically falling growth rates will be restored by the economic system. But the crisis comes not within the factors in the economic system, but from the outside factors, unless you have a regulated economic system. In that case, those regulations might also be cause of the crisis. So in a way, I mean, well, to contrast that, according to Marxian and Keynesian economics, basically, well, at the core theories at least, you have this periodic crisis, which is actually you might have an increase in growth rate in, for example, GDP in general, but you have this continuous period where basically you have a downturn and then an upturn and then a downturn. This is because not because of external factors, for according to these two schools, but basically because of the internal factors. So economic system itself is basically causing this crisis, and we will see how. Well, for Marx, there are three major problems that are causing this crisis. One is the realization problem. That's the fact that the company is not able to realize what they have produced. And he described in general how basically this realization problem might become a systemic problem in the capital volume 2. And we might basically extend this view and say, well, when realization problem becomes especially acute, a systematic problem, when many companies are not able to realize their surplus values. Why they might not realize? That's because, well, according to him, the main problem there is actually, well, the time when companies need to invest might come at a later period. I mean, especially for the companies who have already built their infrastructure and built their companies. The time when they renew their buildings, their capital, the amount, the big big infrastructure they have is, well, that they don't invest on those things always. They only invest them on one time, and maybe 10 years later they invest them again. Of course, one company might invest this year, the other company might invest next year, the other company might invest the following year. But Marx argued that there is also a correlation between the investments the companies are making on this big infrastructure. So they might invest together, and there might be a time when they all stop the investment, and then you might have this lack of demand, and that lack of demand might actually create a problem, which Marx did not say that, but we might add, might be solved by an economic crisis. That might actually eliminate some companies, and the new companies might start to invest by taking over the market shares of the eliminated companies, and you might have a new period of investment. Then you have profit squeeze problem. Profit squeeze problem is basically when the reserve army gets too small, the wages rise and profits get small. And this might also create a crisis, which might create a bigger reserve army and solve the problem. And then you have rising composition of capital, which Marx pretty much thought as a problem that has no cure, that continuously happens in the economic system, and basically brings capitalist system closer and closer to its end, which is its demolition. How this demolition happens, we don't know. We see inside of the capitalist system. We don't see how we exit from the capitalist system in Capital Volume 1, 2, and 3. At least the finished parts of it, because Marx did not finish the Capital Volume 3. He left it. Even one chapter is incomplete. But anyway, but there is a discussion in Marxian school whether this rising composition of rising organ composition and the falling profit rates can be reversed also by greater major crisis in the economic system, and we will have this discussion also. Well, while for Keynes the main problem is irrational investors, and basically, well, we are too close to the 15 minutes mark, so let's end the part 1 here. Let's talk on Keynes in the second part of this lecture. So see you there.